Let's see if we can get some of our woke incels to come and call us names again. Hey?
Yeah.
Let's just knock on. Do you know what? Do you know what upsets me?
If you like.
Sorry, what was that?
Put them up on screen if you like. You know,
I'm going to. You know what? I think we just.
I like people seeing the quality of the opposition. You know.
Well, I don't know if you saw after you left. I just said, no, fuck off. You don't, because he was sitting there demanding proof and evidence. And I went, no, you made the claim, mate.
Yeah.
We don't need to listen to you. You know,
imagine
like it's just crazy.
Evidence that men can become women.
Oh yeah, and you need to prove that they can't. That conversation sounds quite familiar. Do you remember those old atheist versus Christian wars where the Christians, the evangelicals, would come in and say, "Prove there's no God," and it's like, "No, that's not how this works. That's not how this works." Yeah. And that's, I suppose, because you would.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go. Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to say because you and
Helen just pointed out that one of the most famous witch finders, 24 years old. Isn't that interesting? We always see Vincent Price in our heads, but the actual witch finder was, isn't that interesting? A 26-year-old with a huge sense of doing the
rage.
Right. Yeah, and a hatred against
and
women.
Probably a whole fuckload of mummy issues. I'm guessing.
Well, exactly. You know, that's something I often say to these people who write to me and totally disregard the women in the conversation by framing it around trans rights all the time. I always just say the same thing. You know, didn't you get on with your mom? You know, it's like, how can we be so blasé about giving away her rights? Her rights to think.
My favorite comeback is always a bit more generic and a bit more of a head fuck. And I just turn around and I reply and I say, "I'm so sorry she hurt you." And that's it. So whoever it was, the ex-wife, the mother, it's always just someone who's really hurt them, right? And they're very angry about it. Make it,
But also anyway. I'd also imagine there's another thing going on, which is they might like women perfectly well. They just haven't thought through the implications of their stance. You know, they haven't actually examined it for two, and I think there's two reasons they haven't examined it. One is that they're scared that if they do examine it, they'll end up on our side of the fence, all the wrong thinkers, all the J.K. Rowling gang, and the other is if they do that. You know, they know they've got a lot of apologizing to do, you know, like there's someone I know who made a documentary on all this stuff, and it was very compassionate and moving documentary. And their best man, the wife told him that he wasn't allowed to speak to him anymore. You know, and there's a lot of, I've heard of a lot of friendships and families being kind of ripped apart by this stuff, you know, and there's a lot of apologizing that's going to have to be done. These people got it wrong. They just got it wrong. And it's becoming harder and harder for them to, you know, ignore that fact. With J.K. Rowling, with the Newsnight revealing that, you know, homophobic parents are transing their gay kids to fix them. You know, they're going to have to. You were wrong. You called it wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Wrong side of history.
But even just at that sort of higher level as well, this capture of just the wokeness in general, right? This thing that we were all part of, that we signed up for, that we didn't know what it was, and it's morphed into just this crazy cult that's spilling out into the streets now, and it's just not funny anymore.
Yeah, well,
I mean, as much as Chaz is funny in America, that's very much not funny, right? I have mixed feelings about both. Sorry,
what's
the autonomous zone. In Seattle, I'm sure if you've been in politics, I don't know if in the UK, but we call them the trots.
I haven't really been.
We call them the trots. Yeah, the
Oh,
crazies, the
yeah,
green
yeah,
hairs, right? They've
right,
always
yeah,
been the Trotskyists, right? They've
right.
always been there, right? In every political group. They've always been funny. They've always been entertaining and amusing. But they cordoned off the 6 blocks and created their own autonomous zone.
Yes.
And they've decided that it's funny.
It's all very,
but it's also horrific.
It's all very brilliant.
Again, all the funniest things are the darkest things, as you know.
Yeah, well, you know, they're kind of
there's always
funny until up to a point. Like
we
were talking about the Karen video, that woman being no one knows what for. No one knows what she seems to have done wrong. She flipped them off, and now her images, her car registration plate is all over the internet, and she's screaming and cowering on camera. And it
was the begging to stop. It was the fact that she was begging this man to stop. Right. And I think that for any woman who's been in that position where they, you know, I mean, I can carry my own. I'm tall and heavy set, but even I, you know, can still be overpowered by a man. But if you're a 5'2" woman and, you know, have a 6 foot plus man towering over you using their strength and you're telling them to back off, there's been a lot of women in that situation where there's been no fists thrown, but they know it's that dominance, right? That standing over, right?
Yeah.
And she's saying, stop, just stop. She's saying no. And the thing that has hurt me the most, I've actually been tremendously triggered. Like there's some sort of trigger that's happened with trauma here for me today, because I've been just like, holy crap. Like they hate women. Like how much? Like, I thought I knew how much the world hated women. Like, and I sit there and I go, every day I learn more. And also as a mother, like the Karen thing, I find it offensive because we've talked about this. There's a whole grooming aspect to this stuff as well, which is to separate and undermine mothers, you know, from their children.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of mothers who've been sidelined as, you know,
like
and lost kids. I've lost, you know.
Having the escape button on their website. Yeah. You know, what better example of grooming is there than that? It's absolutely outrageous.
And I understand why that exists because, you know, and again, the problem is that I also understand why those things exist, but it's like they've been weaponized and people don't understand that it's not what it sems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so they've sort of borrowed from all of that. I think we were just before we turned it on. Just to address Christopher's comment. Sorry, Scott's here. Scott Jones is here. Hi, Scott. He said it was cut off. No, we just hit broadcast because we were chatting and then we went and I just hit live rather than introducing it. So just to address that. Sorry about that. But we were talking just before we went live about, I'm wondering, because Graham and I both have that sort of that Irish Catholic thing going on where we, you know, that. But I do wonder if do you want to talk a bit about that maybe? Because that seems related,
well, you know,
where we understand the history of this stuff and it feels like it's been weaponized in the worst and scariest possible way.
Here's one of the things I noticed that, like you used the word earlier before we went live, overcorrection, which Douglas Murray used a lot as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, the example of that guy towering over this woman while he films her and terrorizes her is the most perfect example of overcorrection. They've overcorrected to such a degree that they really think they're allowed to abuse women in the street, you know?
And completely ignore the parallels between the video that appeared 3 weeks ago that had the world in riots.
Yeah.
They don't see it. They just absolutely don't see that they're the same thing.
Women don't exist as a concern. They've convinced themselves that just because they live in a very privileged time, in a very privileged part of the world, and all their female friends are doing okay, they think every woman must be doing okay, you know? And it's not true. Like basically women are just, you know, someone wrote me something that really moved me. They said something like quiet women like myself really appreciate what you're doing. And I really felt good about that.
Quiet and scared women, but it's actually, there's a big part
of
this
these
stuff.
Women who do not get, like they don't exist because they don't speak, and as a result, and their voices aren't heard at all, you know. And so,
but also because they're afraid. They're afraid to speak.
If you're in a workplace and someone says, "Hey, everyone's okay with us introducing gender-neutral toilets, aren't they? Yay!" You know, they're the people who get listened to, but not the quiet ones, not the shy ones, not the ones who need privacy. You know.
Yeah.
But you were saying about Ireland. I mean, Ireland is a perfect example of overcorrection, because Ireland, you know, I kind of took part. My wife and I took part in the Repeal the Eighth, which was the thing to get the Eighth Amendment removed from the Irish Constitution, which prevented abortion. You know, we felt very strongly about it, and we fought very. You know, we did a video about it and talked about what happened to us, because we lost our first pregnancy, and we had to have an abortion because the child had a crania, which is something where the skull doesn't form completely around the head. So that was a powerful point. We just thought no one can kind of, you know, and I remember just thinking, surely this isn't going to happen, because when I grew up, abortion was the one thing I thought would never change about Ireland. It was just, for me, it's so bone deep, you know.
But it's so rich in Irish history as well. Like I was saying off stream about how my grandmother, who raised me, my direct influence was my grandmother, right? My parental, and she grew up in a Magdalen laundry in I think it was Cork, but I'm not sure. But you know, so that legacy of a woman, an unwed mother, right? Or they were effectively prisons for women who were unmarried mothers, right? My grandmother grew up in one of those. Her mother died when she was 7, so she was raised by nuns, right? My grandma's uncle adopted her brothers and left her to be raised by the nuns. And she couldn't identify out of that experience. And but that was actually something where, you know, that legacy with Ireland is something that, you know, where the Irish government paid reparations and paid, you know, as a result of a lot of that
that's
stuff,
a great example,
right?
of a good correction. But the thing about
that's what I'm saying is that but there's that collective guilt.
Like we did this campaign, and as it was winding up, I noticed that people were starting to talk about me being a transphobe, because I'd done the same thing as J.K. Rowling. I'd started to like tweets that seemed entirely reasonable, you know, and they were kind of. And the thing is, all that's happened in Ireland, like today, you know, one of the groups we probably worked with, an abortion network, I think it is, did some extremely stupid tweet about how it said something like. It said something like a British form of feminism, you know. I was trying to tap into the Ireland thing about the Brits, you know. But it said a British form of feminism has just started, as if the fucking form of feminism that centers women is somehow an anomaly. It's somehow a crazy offshoot of feminism, you know.
But that's a tribal thing. That runs deep too, right? That resentment, and only Southern Irish people can understand that resentment. There's where that becomes more tribal and not rational. Well, it's not about that. It's about the tribe, right?
Is all of these types these witch finders? The witch finders, they become Christian brothers. The Christian brothers then become, failed comedians and stuff like that. You know, these are the same types, and they're repeating themselves throughout history. And they will always find another word I use for it all is the bully class. You know, class is always looking for a way to scramble back into a position of authority because they missed school. You know, when they were at school, they were able to use sheer physical force and their aggressive, you know, stupidity to kind of keep people in check. But now that they're out of school and people are civilized and people are talking and people are examining evidence and stuff like this, they don't like this world. They don't know how to deal with it.
And they can't sick the teacher on you.
They can't sick
you know, like,
yes, exactly.
But now they can get Twitter to do it.
So the bully class is in power I think, all over the world. Trump is bully class. Putin is bully class. You know, and these kind of supposedly woke arseholes are bully class. They're bully class.
Yeah.
You know? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's just but it's also authoritarians. generally, like politically speaking, it's just
word.
authoritarian movements. But yeah. But they just the bullies are drawn to authoritarian movements, and I think that that's just the left hasn't addressed that. A large portion of the left. When I just say political left for expedience, but like, libertarian and authoritarian are at the opposite ends of the axis as well. You've got left, right, authoritarian, libertarian. That's your political axis. And right now we've got left authoritarians taking over, and I'm a left libertarian, and I'm sitting there going, nope, nah, that's not right. That's not right.
The other thing that people I think are going to realize when they're looking back at this time is that Trump is having as much of an effect upon our world as Napoleon did. Trump basically is the victory of bullying, of always attacking, of kind of stupidity brought to a level where you're actually proud of the stupidity.
I think he's hilarious. He's a genuinely hilarious. He's terrifying, but hilarious.
Here's my point here. Trump types are these are the kind of people like that Fox Fisher guy who was criticizing.
I haven't seen that yet.
And someone like Rachel McKinnon. Rachel McKinnon's, if you look at his, I'm not calling Rachel McKinnon a woman. He is a man. He's a cheat. But if you look at McKinnon's essays, they're all about how to fool people by being very assertive in what you're saying, and that's what Trump does. Trump just creates kind of little realities for him that are true as long as he's saying them. And the only thing he has to do to keep them true is leave the room before someone asks him a question. That's what all these people are like. That's why they won't talk to us. They won't discuss any of this because they know it just won't hold up. None of it will hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, should I share this link with my followers? How do I do that? Do I just copy and paste the top, or will that bring people into the studio?
Just into the chat. Can you post into a comment, or do you want me to?
No, I don't want to. No, I mean post into Twitter, tell Twitter this is going on. My Twitter.
It should. You just go look to my profile, and it will retweet.
I don't see your profile. Okay.
All right, Boomer. We probably got kicked off for misgendering. Because they're right on that. They're right on the innocent misgendering in a conversation, but a woman being harassed on the street can be
yeah, exactly. That's fine.
Stay up.
Because they've
here we go.
They've convinced. I know what I'll do. I'll
I'm just adding you with a glinner in it at the moment now. It didn't tag you in it for some reason. There you go.
Right.
So
it's kind of it's 06 there. Oh, I see what you've done. Oh, so right. Okay, I've done that. Anyway, where were we?
So the bully class, and I think that's just the nature of populist leaders, and that's just, I think it's just, again, social media just pours kerosene on. None of this is new. Historically speaking, it's just that it's now just it's gone viral. Populism's gone viral with charismatic leaders, doing what charismatic leaders do, which is they walk into a room, they peddle easy answers, they say it with confidence. Yeah. It's the American way, right? And again, it's downwind from American imperialism across the board. It's an infection of American style tribal politics, the two parties, the failure of the culture wars. It's bleeding into everything. That personality-driven politics, which is infected Australian politics and UK. It used to be an era of sort of civility and procedural respect and bipartisanship that's just
with Ireland,
the last decade.
That's what Ireland.
Oh, sorry, not Ireland. Yeah. So an Ireland's a multi-party system, right?
Well, yeah, but my point, what I was going to say about Ireland is that what Ireland is when they're complaining about the British, they're doing so in service of a completely American ideology. American import. Gender ideology is an American import.
It's nonsense.
by unreadable academics by Judith Butler and con men like Rachel McKinnon. Basically it feels
and child
good,
worship. Everybody gets an award. It's a natural conclusion.
Feels good because they think, oh, because Hollywood liberalism seems to support it, and everyone thinks they're on this wonderful wave of positive goodness, but they're not. They're actually on a wave that crashes into that woman being fucking abused in front of her car. That's the wave they're on. But
where you have,
because it's American, they think it's great.
And also, I don't know if you saw, because Megan Murphy wrote an article about this. And the history of the word Karen, which I didn't know about. I thought Karen was pretty funny at first. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. I get because I thought it meant, but it was actually something where a man set up something, fuck Karen subreddit about his ex-wife that was like, and he was just a jilted dude, right? Who was basically, and that was and I went, oh, that changes it. And it's just like, wow, that's like incel shit.
It's just,
and it's like, it's amazing.
As soon as men started saying, by putting on lipstick or whatever, I'm a woman. As soon as that happened, the reaction from women should have been the same as the reaction when Rachel Dolezal started trying to get away with. The reaction from the black community to Rachel Dolezal was so angry and so
and rightly so.
And rightly so. But there's another kind of parallel in the sense that I don't care what Rachel Dolezal can do what she wants, as long as it doesn't affect the legal kind of standings of black people. So do whatever you want. If you want to identify as a black person, far away, but don't.
And I'm pretty sure that in that instance,
if women had said at the start, as soon as the first person tried to get away with this, hang on a second, you're a gender non-conforming man. Don't say you're a woman. That's offensive. That's crossing a line. Then it would be over now. But they were kind of semi-relying on the fact that women are accommodating and women are kind of they're less likely to make those kind of stances. They relied on it, and as a result, women were like, oh, maybe we should be a little bit nice, and they started to give a little bit of ground. I think women should take back that ground. Absolutely, say no.
I think that's where a lot of the confusion is with people like Posey Parker and yourself, and those that would be from the outside, right, be seen to be hard line. But the thing is, I've said, like, even saying 2 + 2 = 4 and a little bit is not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, unless you say 2 + 2 = 5. You get what I'm saying? Like, I know it's probably a really bad metaphor, but I'm saying even if you just sort of give a little bit.
That's why Jamil's predicament is so funny.
Yeah.
She can never,
because you have to keep doubling down. Yeah.
She has to
and so
like I'm doing a thread now with my followers where I'm apologizing for everything, and my followers are picking me up on the wording of the apology, and so I apologize for that. And we're just seeing how long I can keep that going,
But one thing I've noticed, because I watched a bit of stuff about the reaction from Dankula, and I saw Sagan's video, which I thought was, he actually went, "That's a legit apology. I accept it. That's cool." You know what I mean? And I think that's been because what's interesting is you've actually quoted Douglas Murray a couple of times.
Yeah, I love.
Initially, like a year ago, he would have been considered like a right wing person, right?
Can I tell you about a little bit of the journey I've made on that type of stuff? I'll give you an example. Douglas Murray is an interesting one, right? Because I read
very smart dude.
He is, but I do think that he's got some blind spots. Like
I disagreed with him
in the madness of crowds. He acts as if feminism sorted out all the problems it needed to sort it out, and so did the fight against racism.
But that's what men do. That's what men say.
True. That's obviously they're obviously
men always think that women are overreacting. That's a story for the ages.
they're obviously very weak starting points for him to set off from. However, he did set off, and he made some great points, and he made some. It's a really fantastic book, you know. But I was also thinking, I remember people were saying he was very Islamophobic. But then I looked into it, and I noticed that someone who did call him Islamophobic, he successfully sued them. So I haven't read his other book, which is called The Strange Death of Europe, I think. I haven't read that book, but I'm not going to take anyone's word anymore on who is and isn't a racist or a bigot, because I know now.
That's good. I'm glad.
They just apply those labels, you know, how willy-nilly. You know, they just apply those labels in order to, you know, climb a political ladder, usually, you know. Like,
but I think it's also important to engage. Even like the madness of crowds was really interesting to me, even if I disagreed with it, because I think it's really like, this is art of war. I thought this was established in 600 BC as a good strategy, which is to know your enemy. So even if you engage with texts because you can't, and that's one thing I think this wokeness on some level might actually be a backlash. Right, which is to feminism, which is and a lot of the social justice movements, because they're sort of weaponizing a lot of the old arguments against us.
Yes,
all of our arguments that we have used have been weaponized against us, where a lot of feminists are having to sort of, and yourself and various other people have to do an apology tour and backtrack and go, oh, like today on stream, like my grind stream, my daily stream today, I actually reflected and I said, I think one area where feminists may have gone wrong, and again, I'm only saying this because there's 100 people watching and only 2 people watch my daily one, but I think one of the mistakes that the feminist movement made, and I don't like these monoliths because it's individuals. We need to stop apologizing for what other people said for a start. I'm not judged for the opinions of anyone other than myself. But where we went wrong was not delineating or separating feminism from the left and making it only a left-wing movement, not engaging with women on the right. I think that's still a constant thing at the moment, which is that embracing women on the right, talking about their concerns with family, stay at home, being a wife, mother, those sorts of things that are important to women that are on the right. I think a lot of the feminist narrative, in retrospect, I think we messed up a few things. We've messed up several times as a group. Again, I know there are outliers.
An interesting thing on Claire oh God, what was it? It was someone said something like I don't believe you're intersex because you're too right wing. The idea of an intersex person.
This is where this went wrong.
It's crazy, and
honestly, I think it's a left versus right political spectrum is wrong in that Marxism should have been about the working class, regardless of what their views were, right? Yeah, it's about the interests of a class, and feminism suffered the same fate, which is that we should have been for all women and the interests of all women and not attached it to economics, right?
Well,
and not attached to other
radical
things.
Feminists. That's why I love radical feminists, because they'll often say they fight for all women, even the ones who disagree with them. So often when people when women would kind of confront me about this stuff, I tended not to engage, because what usually happens is they say something like you don't represent me or something, and or they challenge me in some way, and I reply, and the very next tweet says, so you're mansplaining to me about how but you came to me. So I stopped kind of engaging with those people. Like, someone invited me on a podcast. These 2 trans people invited me on a podcast, and I said everything I'm saying I have absorbed from smart feminists. Like Jane Claire Jones and Doc Stock and all these people. Get them on your podcast. Interview one of them, and then I'll come on. And they refused.
Yeah, and do you know why? And do you know why I'm talking to Graham right now and not like other women? It's because Graham was willing, first of all. Graham is visible. Graham gets an audience, and people listen to Graham. You're sitting there on Twitter laughing at a Karen begging for some dude to stop while we're saying we don't want this. There's a whole There's thousands and thousands of women that get banned, and Graham sticks his neck out. And like in a pure world, a man wouldn't be speaking for feminism, but no one listens to us.
Megan Murphy is the best example.
Yeah,
Megan Murphy did nothing wrong, and she was banned from Twitter. She said that's him about a predator. And the fact that she's gone and the predator is still, sorry, not the predator from the film, but the fact that she's gone and the sexual predator who she was talking about is still on Twitter. That just
still goading, still
blows my mind every day. It really does.
His handle rhymes with unflushable turd. But it's just, yes, we know who you're talking about, but I just prefer to dance around the rules and just try to say no. But I shouldn't be living with this fear.
Making it impossible.
I shouldn't be afraid.
About dangers, like if someone is using their trans status to speak to children privately, which is a big thing. You always say, hey, drop me a line if your parents don't understand, drop me a line. That is safeguarding. That is safeguarding 101. Is you don't tell kids to contact you privately, even if your intentions are good, because what it does is it puts it in kids' mind that it's sometimes okay to talk to adults privately. It's not. It's never okay. And the thing of separating.
Yeah, the problem there though is that this is probably because I worked in as a graduate. I worked in child protection as a welfare worker, and I know I can diagnose where these things, where the intentions are. Because when you work with the social work, with the schools, with when someone's at risk, there's reciprocal child protection measures in place between government departments, right, to make sure that kid is interviewed and kept safe or whatever. But they need to be actually at risk, right, of abuse. Yes. It's not just, I think I'm this thing.
Yes.
Right? There needs to be some evidence of the child being at risk, and they've kind of spun these good intentions of what, and that's why I think I bought this longer than I ordinarily would have, because I grew up, I was a kid of abuse, this legacy of all this stuff. Like I have a very finely tuned sense for the man in the white van, right? It's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
But they get us on the thought terminating cliches where they're hiding in plain sight, which using the legitimate mechanisms that have been fought for, like legitimate issues, legitimate policies, legitimate things like child protection and child welfare. But what they've done is they've actually reframed what the definition of what an abusive parent is. Yes. They alienate that child into what an abusive parent is. And it's more like, like with divorce, I know a lot about parental alienation as well, having gone through a divorce and being a victim of it. And that sort of that turning the child against the other parent, right? And it's quite an insidious thing. And then making you, you know what I mean? Like separating you from your, you get what I'm saying? Like those strategies, what I used to see as a social worker was a lot of sort of begrudged domestic violent DV men, right? Abusive men use the welfare system to get back at their ex-wife, or use the children, or use the courts as weapon, use those tools that existed to protect the women. And I'm sorry to any of the dudes that are watching, not all men, # all that shit. I'm saying women do it too, but this is the thing. But people use the court system to get their own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe because I saw that early, right? Like I worked on the call center and receive a call, and you could tell it was bullshit. He's like, "Oh, my ex-wife is neglecting our kids." I was like, "Okay," and you'd have a series of questions and you'd hang up on them. Whereas now, all a kid has to do is tell the school that they think they're trans.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's like the parent doesn't even have an opportunity to react. They just assume that the parent's a transphobe.
Yeah, I know, it's extraordinary.
Just assume it.
Because it's also there's a couple of things. There's a couple of so many dangerous things on top of one another. One is the very, very simple flip of saying that a man is a woman. Now that just completely transforms.
Well, it all unravels the second you admit that they're not.
The second thing is catastrophizing language. It's like you're literally causing trans people to die. You're literally doing this. You're literally, it's such fucking bullshit. And it sounds convincing because so many people are saying it at the same time, using exactly the same language, and it's bullshit. And it really does need individuals to stand up and say it clearly. Like I was talking about cis last night, and basically someone was saying, I'm a bit worried that, how can we stop cis becoming embedded in the language, and my feeling is, as soon as someone says it to you in real life in a face-to-face situation, it's over, because no one can back it up in real life. And all anyone has to say, every individual, is, excuse me, I don't like that word. I find it offensive. I'm not a subsection of my own sex. I'm not cis anything, and if everyone says that, then for me, it'll become like the N word. People will be frightened to say it, and rightly so. It's a disgusting word, It's a bullying.
Well, it's useful in a conversation with a trans person. So I'm quite happy. I'm happy to make.
How is it useful?
I'm happy to make concessions on a personal level because I'm not a douchebag. Like, right? I think that's what we need to. I have to go. Okay.
But how is it useful? How is it useful? I don't get.
Oh no, just as a descriptor, and I just say, well, if I'm in reference to being not trans, right? Again, that's just something that's just.
But what is trans? What is trans? Is it if you've had the operation? Is it if you have the hormones? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
or is it a woman who is having absolutely nothing? I refute. You should. I think cis, even any use of cis is giving ground to the opposition.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I agree with you politically speaking, but on when you're interpersonally, right? Again, I know that there's a whole area that again, it's just a thing. Like with Cyrene, I was like, what are your pronouns? Her. Okay. That's the thing.
I use preferred pronouns, to people who are not misogynists. I will always do that, but I won't do it in the presence of radical.
Oh yeah, if it's a demand, that's
offensive, and I completely understand that too. So my thing is, I avoid the issue when I'm talking about it on Twitter, and my friends like Debbie Hayton and Fiona Orlander, they totally understand that. In fact, they often joke about being men. They tell jokes about it. But I do think we do need a hard line. I think Posey is absolutely bang on in how angry she is and how she just simply will not back down. And what's been interesting with Posey is seeing her being cornered into smaller and smaller places on the internet because
it's ridiculous.
Because she won't bow to them. She won't bow to them at all. No one should bow to them.
Yeah, it's admirable. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I still have a sort of a branding, optics, comms background, and I'm more of a sort of policy person. So I kind of go, can we find a way? Is there any way of compromising here? I'm not saying compromise on women's issues. I
think there's a way
I always try to look for consensus. It's just one of those things. I'm a peacemaker.
Let's say you were having a conversation or a debate about it. You could set up a number of ground rules. First ground rule, no use of the word cis. Second ground rule, no misgender.
Yeah. Exactly. So as long as we're respecting boundaries, I think we're actually loudly agreeing with most people, except the most. And I think anybody who doesn't really agree with the idea of, say, a unisex toilet as a third space, and they want to be in the women's space, we've got to be able to ask the question why.
Did you see what Harrop did yesterday?
No, I didn't. I block him. I find him tedious.
No, but this is good. What he did, right, was he said, why don't we get, it's so funny, why don't we give cis women?
I've seen a few people
say their own. It's like, okay, we agree.
We've got those.
He's saying you have one toilet that's mixed, right, where trans women and women can be in the same toilet, and one toilet where cis women can be. Yeah, okay.
That's what we've been saying. That's what you cancelled everyone for. That's what I mean. I do find it funny. Maybe it's just taking a bit longer to get there. I think I just try to. I know that giving a little to extremists doesn't work, but I do try to be charitable with people and go, you'll get there when you're on the right side. sometimes, you know, you go, oh, you know, like when you've got a religious fanatic friend and you go, I know this is going to end. And when if you have to look at it through the lens of a cult. Cult members can't be told that they're in a cult. They need to go through a certain process, and you just need to sort of greet them with love, open arms when they're ready. It's one of those things you've just got to keep pushing the dissonance, keep doing it, keep pushing it, and just keep them in your life, right? It's one of those things where you have to keep them in your life and be very patient and charitable, even when it's really hard. It's very similar psychology. But the funny thing is that it is funny being on the other side now, where you're seeing other people going through that. And I reckon Jamila's going to go through it. She's going to have to. She's just so far in that she's just, oh my God.
There's a few people who are just simply going to delete their Twitter account. There's people who have been so embarrassed by the trail of bombs that they pooped out behind them that they're just going to have to delete their account. Aidan Comerford is going to have to delete his account. So is Jamil, whatever.
Yeah. But if you're asking questions and hate watching this, do know that there is love on the other side for the most part. There's going to be a few angry people who are going to want an apology. But for the most part, I think that most of us are sympathetic because we were you once. We all believed it once.
In fact, someone today told me that they said something like, I thought the same until a few weeks ago. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty recent turnaround.
With J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, I think it must have been. It must have been J.K. Rowling. Yeah. But you know, I like the fact that people are so willing to say, oh, hang on, maybe I was looking at it through the wrong lens, or I was being a bit simplistic, or whatever.
It takes courage to do that, and it's hard to do, but it is easier, and you will be happier for it. Trust me, you'll be fine.
Otherwise you just go mad. I mean, one of the things that I can't. It's like Helen Stanland said in my interview with her. She said, I couldn't argue from the other side because they have to lie all the time. And it's like when Trump's lies were always great. I thought Trump's lies would be the thing to take him down, but he's so he's like a cockroach. He's too resilient. But the thing is, Trump was not so much about.
It's actually impressive.
And he couldn't actually remember what his lies were, you know. And that's the position that gender cultists are in.
That's the thing.
Thought is so incoherent that they don't actually like what happened with Harrop. You know, he just gets to the end of his natural, limited resources thinking about it, and he ends up with ladies' toilets. You know what I mean? That's where they're all going.
Well, that took a while. You know, like it's like the most exhausting domestic fight you've ever had with your partner ever, where you just are you're all out. You're out of energy and you're just so exhausted, and you just finally just go, oh, we've been screaming for the last day because we weren't hearing each other. That doesn't happen anymore. But I'm saying, like, we've all had those relationships and where you're just so at the end, and then you realize you're actually agreeing with each other. And you try and you go, oh, okay. I'm hoping that we come to a point where we go, oh, remember that time when we all believed we were all just loudly misunderstanding each other. Like the J.K. Rowling, is it Rowling or Rowling? It's Rowling.
Oh God, I think it's Rowling.
I'm not.
Rowling.
But it's
different things, as I say.
But with the response, when I sat there, and she's like. And then all the responses were like, oh, you silly Billy, sex is different to gender. And I'm like, that's what you cancelled us for.
That's what
the fuck are you talking? That's what you cancelled everyone for saying. What the fuck are you talking about?
J.K. Jones had a funny comment.
Oh my God.
J.K. Jones had a funny comment. She said all these people saying to J.K. Rowling that no one's saying that sex is gender or that gender is sex, like kids with chocolate all over their mouths and one hand in the cookie jar, you know? It's like, yeah, that's what you've been saying all this time.
Absolutely like that, yes.
You know what I mean? Some SNP member said it immediately. She said something like trans women are adult human females. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? These people are so stupid. It blows my mind. That's the thing. That's the thing people understand about me. They might think that my I'm sure they think that my intention of bigotry or whatever, you know. But it's not it's not even it's the injustice of it, one thing, and my fucking white knight tendencies. But the main thing
king of Woman Mountain.
But the main thing is I will not be told that 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah.
I won't, because I'll go mad if I have to think that.
Yeah.
I'll go mad if I have to say that and have to pretend that's true. If I see Alex Drummond calling himself a lesbian, I'll go mad if I think that that's allowed.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. That's insulting lesbians, you know?
It is.
So I'm fighting for my sanity here. I'm not fighting a crazy battle just out of some sense of, you know, being a bigot. I am fighting for my sanity. you know.
And the sanity. I'm also trying to fight for the sanity of, well, my children, your children.
Yeah.
I want them to grow up in a world where the dictionary doesn't mean what it means anymore. I mean, yes, words evolve and change, but not in this direction.
Not of course.
Like this, like where white supremacy is now, you know, denial of white supremacy. There's no rigor for that. That's not intellectually honest. I know you. I think you're slowly, your thread's only been pulled on gender. You're still kind of unraveling the race side of wokeness as well. But you know, like it's very uncomfortable journey. Such an uncomfortable journey.
It's always the allies who are the worst. It's the white allies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In my thread, saying to white allies, could you please stop comparing sex segregation to racial segregation? It's extremely insulting to compare oppressors that are white men to the oppressed with black people. You know, it's extremely insulting. But they keep doing it. It's because the word segregation is in there, and they think they're the same.
Not to mention these white woke dudes with a beard, right? Fucking, why are they always baristas? They're always fucking baristas.
They're just trying to get laid. Those guys are trying to get laid. Those guys are saying the thing that seems
I'm being unfair
to girls the same age as them, to women, women the same age as them. And at the moment, everyone's pretending they believe all this shite because, you know, it's fashionable, you know, and these blokes
and the social pressure is huge, right? And that's the thing is, and I think that and also I've done branding with tech companies, you know, branding and marketing and all that shit, and user experience is my thing. And I've worked with these companies, and I know that they're only doing it because they think that the audience wants it.
Yeah.
The second that the insights and data and the marketing data shows that the sentiment shifts, they will change.
Oh,
right. They're not doing it. I don't believe that they're doing it to drive anything. They're just. I've worked with brand managers. I'm sure, and you know this too. You work in media. You know. The second the BBC sees something in, you know,
no, exactly.
in this, they'll change.
They'll follow
it's just,
and I'll tell you, artistically, wokeness is a dead end because wokeness just you know, if you are creating works of art, you have to tell the truth. You have to tell the truth. You can't lie, and wokeness, for the most part, is a lie because it's not. It depends on people being something other than they are, people being, you know, points of power rather than individuals, you know. And
it's also not funny.
And it's not funny.
Because they have to explain the joke and qualify the joke, and there's nothing funnier. Like the only potential funniness out of this is the disclaimers, right? That you'd have to put around every single joke. There's probably a whole hour in that, which is right, you know, like one line. And I'm sure there's a whole hour that has someone done this bit. I've got it as a premise. It's probably where you've got a single joke, but in order to tell that single joke, you need to go through like an entire hour of disclaimers and qualifiers in order to tell one joke. Like it just you get what I'm saying? It ruins the
absolutely.
joke.
I remember when
it's inherently unfunny.
Tropical Thunder, you know, did that routine.
We watched it the other night.
Yeah, you know, they've never
gone full retard.
Yeah. Well, you know, they did that joke, and I was watching it.
It's off Netflix. It's been pulled.
And at the end of the film, there was a big disclaimer apologizing for the joke. It's like, fuck's sake, you know. I mean, it really is. It's crazy, and we will be lesser humans if we allow these people to destroy art and to destroy comedy. You know, everyone needs to stand up, you know. Listen, I'm going to have to go because I'm going to have to pick up my daughter.
One thing, just quick, can I have you for 2 minutes? Because I really just want to say, as a comedy writer, right, I completely forgot the fucking question.
As a comedy writer.
It was a good question. It was about comedy.
That happens to
and
me
you
all
were
the
saying,
time on these things.
I know. And it was a really good question. And I desperately wanted to hear it.
Well,
which was trust in your audience, trusting the market, let the market decide.
Yeah.
Right. Which is that when you write something and I'm sure you go through this, this is marketing branding 101, which is that you go, I trust my fans, I trust my audience to know that I mean that this is a joke, that this is no ill will. Yeah. Right. And it's the thing with all this censorship is like they don't trust. Ultimately they think we're dumb and we're stupid, and that the everyday person is so stupid that they can't figure out that Gone with the Wind is like that slavery is bad and it's an old movie. Like, how dumb do people think we are? Right. Yeah. That's the insult, right?
I totally agree with the idea of maybe it shouldn't be on kind of, you know, replay somewhere all the time.
No, it should be contextualized.
yeah, it's different. We're in a different world now where that kind of passive experience of it you might argue that maybe it's not so great, but you know, as long as these things are available, because you know, Gone with the Wind, you know, I mean, like there's like something like that Disney film. I mean, that's, what was it called? Song of the South or something like that. I mean, that's really.
I loved that movie as a kid. I didn't notice.
I didn't notice. Age, you know?
Yeah, but maybe that's my white privilege speaking. I don't know, but I just loved the songs.
Yeah,
and Brer Rabbit, and
they obviously have a different meaning too. But the fact that they've banned in, I think, Minnesota, they banned To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, and these are wokesters banning it. You know.
Yeah, I know.
It really needs to be stopped. You know, it really.
Yeah, I think that Cuddy. I think art has to be sacred. I think it's one of those things where it's just such a slippery slope.
Yeah,
it's like censorship. Censorship is a slippery slope. I know you've got to go, but I really wanted to ask you that question about trust in the audience.
Yeah,
but you should trust in your fans and have faith in your fans and write something.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. I'm on it. And
good.
Yeah, no, we've got something planned.
Yay.
And if we can't get it filmed, then we'll do it as a radio play or put on YouTube.
It's a web series.
Yeah, something like that. But
crowdfund it.
But we've got something planned, and I think what I wanted to be is I wanted to lance the boil of all this stuff. You know, it's time to start talking about it. It really is. But I gotta go.
Absolutely.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Tia. That was great.
Thanks, Graham. It was great to talk to you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
I'm still here. I'll still say hello and chat to the chats. Hello, everyone. He had to go. It was just under an hour, so we're good. That was just a chat. I hope I did okay. There's like everyone drops the second Graham leaves. That's amazing. Anyway, thank you for watching. See, even I have, we can disagree and agree and have a slightly different view on things. But if anyone has got any questions, let's have a look here. I haven't been paying attention because I like to be present with guests. So Scott said, hello to my two favorite people at the moment. And I apologize to Graham for thinking he was a tit and calling him one a couple of years ago. Look forward to the next Harry Miller case. Did you get booted? Did you get banned from Twitter? Because I haven't seen you around. Also, how's your pancreas? Anyway, message me. Where are we? How did we get to this point? Well, I joked on Twitter just now that hindsight is 2020. I think we're all trying to figure that out. So I know I've been reflecting a lot on that stuff, right? On where this has gone wrong. Because I'm political background, so I'm sitting there going, where did this go wrong? Like, where did feminists go wrong? What did we allow in? Where did we go wrong with welfare? How is it, trying to diagnose this stuff is really complex. So that's what I'd like to talk to a lot of different people about. I'm hoping I'd actually like to get Douglas Murray on as well. And yeah, I've got I got fucking whatever. So I did Trigonometry's website, so they can. I'm sure they can introduce me to whoever. So so Sally Brearley said, yeah, so this is the thing with the Irish, is the history between Ireland and England and Scotland, the dynamics are different, that sort of rivalry, right? Which is the feeling of wanting to be better than the English. But that's the problem, I think. And I think America has done that as well, which is that they left the UK and they're like, I want to leave the UK. Fuck everything. And maybe the UK has some answers. Australia's been smarter, which is that we took the best of both America and the British system and built something. It's probably a little bit more stable, but, you know, maybe you guys can learn from Australia. I think we're doing okay. We've got a pretty bad record with certain things too, but it is funny to see that stuff. What do you think of Russell Brand at the moment? Russell Brand does that charismatic thing. He does. He just talks until you get whiplash. And he's extremely charismatic and funny and charming. And then he shoots words at you, and you're not really entirely sure that you heard what he said. So it's interesting. Now, Sis, yes, I don't know. I don't know if my point got across with Sis, which was that you can disagree with something with policy. You can set boundaries, yes. But when I'm dealing with a trans person who is a person who has a story, I've talked to two already in this new show, and I'm going to talk to several more. I need some trans men. If you're a trans man and want to come on and are happy to talk to me, that would be great. But I want to because there's people with stories, and they're often fucking painful stories. And I do believe that there is some room for politeness. There's still a person there, okay? That's not to gaslight. That's not to do anything. But, you know, personal's political, but political isn't always personal, right? Posey is a honey badger. Yep, Gad said. I love the honey badger. I'm a honey badger too. I'm just a fucking unknown honey badger. So what else have we got? Jane Claire Jones thinks she's a knob as well. Who's a knob? Where are we? Who are we talking about? Okay, I missed that. Sorry, Miriam, I missed that. Who say that? I might understand if she was a rad femme. Who are you talking? Are you talking about Posey? Posey. Okay. Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I think, do you know what? Every political movement everyone has a role to play, and I think that look, I'm about free speech. I think the only not to coin a cliche, the only way forward is for all ideas to be heard and then try to find common ground, right? You got to keep pushing, like with the Harrop thing. You just keep pushing and keep pushing the conversation, keep progressing the conversation, and eventually, the more you talk, the more you might eventually find some common ground. Try to be gracious. I know it's hard. I know it's fucking hard. And I try very hard to behave myself, and I'm fucking angry about this Karen video, and I don't give a fuck. But anyway, I think exactly. And Kate Stafford said, hello, Kate. That's great. Posey's like most of us, right? Sometimes wrong. Exactly. I talk shit. Like, I'll say the exact one thing and then openly disagree with myself in the next fucking sentence. That's called thinking and thinking things through, and also context. Like, depending on my environment, I'll change my position. If I have to deal with an extremist, I will, you know, sort of go full on like the other side. If I'm talking to someone like Gad said, or someone that you can have a conversation with, then I'll sort of try to be a bit more charitable and understand their point of view, right? So hello from Istanbul. Oh, from Turkey. Awesome. That's cool. Global audience. And we didn't get many trolls. That's great. Is this progress? Or has he blocked them all? Oh, because his account's locked, right? So his stalkers can't see. I'm sure they'll find someone at some point. All right. Well, I think we're good. Thanks for watching, listening. If this ever becomes a fucking podcast and I ever do my tech. I do have a Patreon and all of that sort of stuff if you're interested. But yeah, just go to my website, which I think is linked on my Twitter profile, but it's Taya Smith, TEA. Oh, they're all down there. Anyway, like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. I'm talking to James Desborough, who's grim, and he was on the man side of Gamergate, and I'm talking to him tomorrow. He wrote he self-published a book about Gamergate, and it's actually really good. I'm 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to read it now because I'm talking to him tomorrow. But I'd like to talk more about that side of Gamergate, because I think quite a few of us, especially feminists, who found ourselves on the sort of, let's say, the feminist side of Gamergate, have had to eat a little bit of shit. Like with Graham, we've all had to do a little bit of fucking shit eating and apology making and bridge building with people where we've misbehaved in the past. And I'm a digital expert, so I observed Gamergate and I sort of saw what was going on from both sides, but the narratives are not, like Kathy Young's correct. Like, I think that if you're a feminist, you should be and wrong. Find yourself on the wrong side of this debate, you should be questioning the other stuff as well, and looking into some of this red pill MRA narrative and Gamergate stuff, and especially 4chan, and explaining what that is, because I don't think people understand sort of nerd culture and internet culture very well. So Retstar, thank you for doing this. Well, thank you for watching. I'm always amazed that anyone pays attention to what I've got to say. So I hope it's been useful. I hope I challenge Graham enough, because like I do push him a little bit and disagree and that sort of stuff. And I think it takes tremendous courage to be that high profile and admit when you're wrong and fucking embrace your enemies. Like, he's been like, honestly, incredibly generous with his time, first of all, talking to me. I mean, fuck. But also, like, people that he's defamed, not defamed, but we've all fucked up in the past. And I really like the idea that if maybe we can start having conversations and heal from previous battles. And that's why I'm talking to James tomorrow. It'd be good if you could tune in for that one. I'm aware that most people have tuned in for Graham. I'm not up myself, all right? But if you do, I'm trying to get to my 1,000 on YouTube, so do follow me there. And, all of that sort of stuff. But I'd like to have sort of more conversations about sort of those of us who have de-wokened, so to speak, and are trying to move forward. But also we have to fucking eat some shit along the way. And I like to keep things funny if I can. But so let me just see the comment here. Precious. Oh, Christopher. Yes, I actually saw that you followed. So Christopher, I assume it's Christopher or Christopher. I'm not sure. Fresh into the debate, but given some time to find my voice properly, I'll be more than happy to be a trans man to chat to. That would be fabulous. I've noticed that you were talking to Rose in a thing before, and I was actually meaning to reach out to you and say hi, because I it's okay to have complicated views on things, and it's okay to not be purist. Bassman PD. Let's talk about this one, because this is something that I keep repeating and I want to get to as many people as possible, which is that the answer to the idiots on the left are not the idiots on the right. The answer is to not be an idiot. And there's also a common thing, and I'm claiming credit. People give me credit for saying it, but it's like, I'm not politically homeless. There's squatters in our house, and that's the thing. They're not left wing. Wokeism is a neoliberal movement. It is inherently, I think, it actually interesting, if you want to read a book, refresh yourself with Susan Faludi, Backlash. She wrote it in the 90s, where she warned about this. She warned about something that was likely to be an insidious sort of backlash to feminism that would look like feminism, and but it isn't. It's basically a backlash. So, but Nicole, please resist. Okay. Again, you know what? If the right is right for you, then that's good. But if I think it's a really good time to sit down and reflect on what your values are and your beliefs, right? at the end of the day, left and right, I've always been across the table. Working in politics, you work across the table in any way, right? If you have deeply held values that align with a political party, that you are capitalist, or all of these, conservative and all those sorts of things, because right wing is a wide range too. Like the conservatives here is very sort of well, now it's probably like centre left. There's a lot of sort of social democrats right over to the far right. Right. The only reason I'm a member of the Labor Party is because they're really the only party whose extremes I can defend. Right. That's changing, because right now I'm inclined to be involved only with the party that will get rid of this shit. Get rid of this shit, because it's dangerous and regressive, and I'll vote for any party that will back women, and that's unfortunately none of them at the moment. But do try to hang in there. Well, I said that earlier in the stream, which is so Nicole said, I'm beginning to think left and right doesn't work anymore. I agree. I think that that's actually, when we talk about hindsight being 2020, that's where we went wrong. Political spectrum is a terrible model, and like the history, left versus right was literally just the side of the chamber that you sat on, based on, it's outdated, it's outmoded. And I think that basically it should be, as chaotic as Italy is politically, it's multi-parties, that real pluralist model, and more consensus-driven politics based on the individual issue. That's one thing that the Americans do get right, is that people, they cross the floor more, like across each party, right, on individual bills and individual issues. I think political parties, this has always been established, that political parties based on left versus right, it's just, you can't govern millions of people with two tribes. It doesn't work. I think we've just got, I think that one of the battles that we've got is destroyers versus builders. Like, I tend to be someone who's a builder. So if I see something that I don't like, I'll just go and build an alternative, let the market decide. This is happening in comedy. That's what I meant to ask Graham about, the fucking comedy thing. That's all right. But what's happening in comedy is, let's tear down comedy and comedy clubs and invade and tear it down and destroy. Whereas I tend to be someone who goes, no, let's build our own thing. And people will follow. That's harder to do, but, I'm more inclined to just build my own thing. I've done that here, right? Rather than try to get any, I just create my own thing, do my own thing. First of all, it makes you uncancelable because you're with like-minded people. Second of all, you're not focused in like destroying something for someone else. Like, there's a role. If comedy is too bro for you, then let's create a decent something else. Create your own thing. We live in a place where we can do that. So. I haven't had Posey. Oh, Turfy, hello. Frequent flyer on Posey's streams, and I've seen you around, so welcome. I hope you subscribe, because I enjoy your contributions. I haven't had Posey on yet. I emailed her, but I believe that she's just, I think she's got a backlog. She's a fucking mum. Like, we're both mums in different time zones, and I imagine, and she also probably doesn't know who I am, but if you can recommend her to come talk to me, I love Posey. Again, you can still like people and disagree with some of their, I agree with her ideas, I disagree with the approach. I'm a little bit more like, but that's why we, don't hate someone just because they're not perfect. I think that's where we go wrong. Even feminists. I'm pretty sure, can we all just agree not to fucking turn on each other? Because right now we've got a common enemy, which is this fucking Karen video situation and Twitter and all of these other things. Can we just get on with it and be nice to each other? I've never understood women. I don't have that chip. Anyway, I love you all. But yes, hang in there. Should I go? Do you want me to ask me anything else? So I'm trying, I booked Francis Foster from Trigonometry to come on, talk a bit, because I'm a comedy nerd. I like talking about comedy. But he's had internet problems and stuff, but I'm talking to James Desborough tomorrow. I might link to his book, because I think The Other Side of Gamergate is interesting. Like, it's probably more interesting to me because I'm writing a book about fucking internet stuff. But, you know, as a feminist, I think it might help you to be a bit more sympathetic, right? But yes, this purity stuff is going to be our undoing. We have to be united. Actually, if you want to watch my stream this morning, no, I think I said it on this stream, didn't I? Which was that we didn't. I think somewhere along the line, when we married feminism, so to speak, with the left, and we didn't really consider too much, and we became purists about feminism being attached to Marxism and all that stuff. Yes, while that's good, I think that we did ignore a large part of women, which is women who, mothers, conservatives, right? Women who don't want abortion, right? I think we needed to incorporate some of that in the conversation. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that was, again, I'm not saying, again, we all, you know, no one's perfect. I think we're just always learning. But, you know, let's just iterate and try to do better and try to be nicer and try to be a bit more charitable, but do it with boundaries and, like, remember who our common enemies are, who are the people, who's that fuckwit who posted that video of, like, bullying a woman who's begging, right, him to stop, and he just like, under the guise of Karen. Like, that's, you know, like, fuck, mass report that shit. Like, this is not okay, right? So anyway, Mandy, I said this with Cyrene the other day. I said, it's almost like trying to get 7 billion people to coexist is difficult. It's almost like that's tricky. And it's almost like there's some of the least qualified and least competent people are fucking running the show at the moment. So, you know, I think we've got to learn to see some humor in it. And you guys make me laugh, man. You really do. And let's get there. But it is funny about Harrop. I didn't know about that. That's pretty funny. So, but I'm going to go. It's late here and I've got to go do stuff. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and all that embarrassing stuff. Yeah, I love you. Bye. Oh, hang on. We got a question from Natasha. Sorry, that was a big question from Natasha, so I'll stop. Hang on a second. Yeah. So the parties have reversed. I don't think that it's necessarily that the parties have reversed. It's just the nature of, they've ignored the axis. They've ignored the authoritarian. My essay that I wrote, blog post. It's not an essay, it's a blog post. About, like, totalitarianism on the left. We have a blind spot for that on the left. We always have. Trots have always fucking been there, but they've taken over and they capitalized on sort of traditional left's slowness in terms of, like, organizing on the internet. And this is an American fucking cultural thing. There's a, you know, it's a hegemonic force that's taking over people's brains via the internet through the fucking 4chan tribal wars and with Tumblr. It's a weird phenomenon. So it's just a weird, it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm. It was bound to happen. So, but yeah. Anyway, love each other. Bye.